Welcome to Fright Night.
It's time for a little Saturday morning fun time! Your show manager is Martin Acosta Santana and John Aaron Schmidt. And your producer is Martin Acosta Santana. I'm your announcer, the Comic Relief Crusader. And now, your hosts, Tom and Gerry. Gary.
It's not rocket science. Just say yes and we'll move on.
He cracks me up. One of the funniest things Will Ferrell ever did was his Harry Carey bit. So we are here. Keith is still on his way. And when I called him about a half hour ago, he was headed home. So he'll join us. And we all have some wonderful thoughts about this movie, Fright Night. And here's the one we're talking about today. Ooh. And Tom is here, of course. Tom, how are you doing, buddy?
I am doing the best I can, trying to do a million things at once as always. How are you guys doing?
It's hard to be as loved as you. I, of course, am wearing my protection.
So much as needed. I guess. I don't know.
Something like that. And I'm, of course, wearing my collar, my anti-vampire collar.
AKA the color of shame.
And the color of shame. What?
I in chat said that the other day. Probably
Really?
Ariel. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's mean.
Yes.
But Martin, of course, is here, and John, our show producer and managers, and of course, Anima, my girlfriend, is here because she endured watching this movie with me and absolutely enjoyed it. It was fun. Yeah. She's like, that was a very good film. And it didn't give her nightmares.
No, it didn't.
And our old dear friend Jace is here.
Hey. A long time no see.
Still not seeing you. I just hear you. And I think that was Keith. Me, of course, yes. Keith absolutely shows up like always right after we start the show.
He's on Keith time.
That's right. He's on Keith time.
Hey, I'd like to thank the providers of our current system for finally allowing me to come in.
Is it StreamYard? What was giving you trouble?
It was acting like there was nothing there. It just kept sitting there, trying to load.
Or also saying this to you: your internet sucks. Your internet sucks.
Hey, if somebody wants to give me some money for better internet, that'd be great.
Yeah, I know, right?
It could be that, but StreamYard fucks with me too, pretending there's no camera on my computer. And I'm like, I just plugged it in. Are you kidding me? Sometimes it does it when we're in the middle of something.
StreamYard has issues sometimes.
Yeah,
it really
does.
do.
It really does.
Look, I love StreamYard. I just wish that it would just be a little bit nicer to me. You know,
nobody else is, so why should it be special?
Well, you know.
Hey, by the way, did you get a hold of Admiral Teague? Because I know he's wanting to get you on the show.
I haven't gotten a hold of him. I was going to get a hold of him later on today.
Yeah,
I had several.
Do so. I'm telling you, people will love it.
Well, we might as well tell everybody why he wants to get a hold of me.
Well, Star Trek.
Of course.
But was there something else that he's want to get a hold of you for?
Oh no, not that I know of. Given the current state of
Actual
Star Wars right
favors?
now.
Star Trek, yeah. It's like, what could save Star Trek? Before we move on to the show, we got Penny in the chat. Looks like we've got our Muslim uncle is here. Assalamu alaikum. Dragon Ruse is here. Brightest Day Audiobooks. And currently we've got about over a dozen people watching the show right now live. So we'll get more as it goes on. Tom, did you get to share out the link?
I did.
Outstanding. Because people are more apt to read your posts than they are mine. Although I get close to, I've been getting, it's back up again. I'm getting close to, on my personal Twitter account, I'm getting close to 1,000 to 2,000 impressions per post.
It was so weird when it went down to 20. That was weird.
Exactly. Oh, somebody's got their vibrator on. And Peter Venkman's side is here. Of course, that's Venkman's girl. I love her posts. She's always one of the big supporters of our channel, but she has some great posts too. But we're going to be talking about Fright Night today, a movie that came out in 1985. It was the last film slated to be shot by the studio, and it was one that they weren't going to put a lot of money or time or effort into. But it ended up being one of the biggest earners for them that year. That was Sony, right? Wasn't that Sony, Tom?
Technically, it was Coca-Cola back then.
That's right. Coca-Cola owned them. And Hal, what's his name? Hal Jaffe was the executive producer on the film. And he, if you ever watch the documentary, you'll hear a very negative things said about him once, which was when Ragsdale broke his ankle on the stairs.
Yeah.
And the producer made it a point to this young kid that you're costing me $100,000 a day.
Yeah, one of the producers would follow him around.
Just made him feel like shit.
He was a fucking kid, and they made him do it.
$100,000 a day.
They made him run down the stairs faster and faster and faster. And on the last take, he broke his fucking.
Well, they thought it was sprained, but then the sound guy goes, "I just listened to it.
I heard the snap.
I heard it break. It's broken."
It's so screwed up to do that to a kid. First causing his injury and then giving him a hard time for that. It's so wrong.
Now, when did you let's hear when everybody saw it. Tom, you go first. When did you see the movie first?
Probably, I want to say video, because at that point my dad was still working for the company. I don't know if I told you guys this story before, but real quick, like he worked for this company that they had like it was a string of gas stations in Wisconsin, and their central hub was where we lived, and they would get, all the videos because they would rent out videos at the stores. And so the employees would be able to take home videos before they would come out. Cause the street date was like a week after they would get them, and they would get like, several copies of each movie so they could send them out to each store. So like every weekend, my dad would literally come home with a stack of unopened videotapes. I didn't realize rental tapes came in a plastic case until I was a little older. Because like the first time I ever got a movie I rented from the store, and I'm like, I got a plastic case handed to me. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Because I was so used to always opening it up myself and actually getting to look at the covers all the time and read the back and all that kind of stuff. So I'm sure at this point, this was one of those movies that my dad brought home in that stack. And it was just one of those movies that I gravitated towards. It was probably like a year after Ghostbusters came out, roughly. Same kind of tone. Like if you were a fan of Ghostbusters, this was, that kind of a movie. In fact, the same special effects crew worked on it. And
yeah, in fact, one of the props that was supposed to be used in Ghostbusters ended up being used in this film for the final scene.
And I think it was one of the earlier PG-13 movies, if I'm not mistaken. It could have been rated R. I'd have to look.
I think it was. Because we saw
it might have been rated R. So, but it was one of those movies where at the time my parents would allow me to watch certain R-rated movies as long as they were more fantasy oriented, like this was clearly. And yeah, no, I remember enjoying it quite a bit at the time. I must have been 5 or 6 the first time I saw it, and it's been a staple ever since. I've seen it a billion times. No, it's a great film, great flick, and it's a great movie for Halloween. And even though it is a little harsher in the R-rated side, it's a perfect combo with the movie we're going to talk about in 2 weeks from now, too.
Yeah, which will be the other big '80s vampire movie, which is Lost Boys, another
that's a good
comedy horror film. And once again, the comedy isn't like shtick; the comedy is dialogue.
Well, what's funny about that is like how the Lost Boys is kind of like a body snatchers kind of movie almost. This is a straight up Hitchcock movie.
It really is, and
it's funny because Tom Holland directed it, who ended up writing Psycho 2.
Yep.
And yeah, it's kind of like there's a little through line there, and this is very much almost like a modern take on, or at least at that time, modern kind of twist and take on Rear Window, basically.
It was Rear Window, and there's a little nod to Psycho with the Victorian house next door.
Oh, absolutely. Like this movie has Hitchcock all over it. In fact, I've posited that if Hitchcock had lived on through the 80s, he probably would have made this movie. Like I could have seen him going,
absolutely.
What is with all these teenage horror flicks lately? I think I can make one pretty good. And he'd have made this.
And oddly, there was like a decade between the two main characters of the kid and the girlfriend, because in real life he was a kid. He was actually in college. She was like in her late 20s when she took that part, but she is able to look younger in those opening scenes, and so it works.
Before she went lesbian.
Amanda Bearseed.
I told
and William Ragsdale.
Yeah, I told Anima about that. But it's good casting. In fact, I don't think, because originally, like Anthony Michael Hall, I think was one of the guys that they had looked at for Evil Ed, and I couldn't imagine anybody other than the kid Jeffrey playing the part.
Well, I mean, when it came to like Peter Vincent, that was not written for Roddy.
No,
it's written for Vincent.
Yep.
And he tried to get Vincent Price to play it.
Yep.
But he was done with horror films because he felt that they'd ruined his career. But well, let's get to you, because I know when Anima watched it, she watched it with me a few nights ago.
This week, yes.
When did you first see Fright Night?
Oh, geez. I first saw Fright Night in the theater. And I thought it was quite fun. Although, again, it was part of something that I think people of our generation would be more attuned to, because having horror movie hosts was normal for us. It's the reason why when they remade it, why Peter Vincent is not a horror film host. They decided to change what Peter Vincent was.
Which I think didn't work.
Well, it didn't work in so much as that it's hard to get kids in 2011 to do the whole horror movie host thing. You can't get them to buy that. And turning him into a magician.
No, I'm talking about story structurally. It doesn't work.
It works if you brought in another way of
because the whole point of his existence is, and being involved, was the fact that he was a horror host that the kid thought knew a lot about vampires.
Yeah. What I would have done was I would have introduced Peter Vincent as some sort of a quote unquote
horror
authority.
Movie star is what he should have been. Period.
Well, either a star or some sort of an authority figure who had fallen out either with his colleagues and for whom Charlie would have been able to look him up and get into what he was saying. Now,
well, they should have just made up a fictional, instead of making him a magician, they should have put it as a movie star who starred in a series of vampire films as a vampire hunter. Period.
Basically, and or they should have made him, and they shouldn't have made the movie, period. But
agreed.
Other than that, like he should have been one of, if you want to modernize it, he would have been one of those ghost hunter guys.
That's right? What I was going to say. Yes.
Yeah, like one of those guys that's like always doing one of those paranormal kind of like shows. Yeah.
Yeah, and if TikTok had been around, he would have been somebody for whom, instead of the meme would have been aliens, it would have been someone that would have been saying vampires, stuff like that. You treat it like that really then brings that character in. And I didn't mind the remake at all, I understood what they were going for. They weren't always successful, but I didn't mind it. Like some other attempted reboots that were really, 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 really bad. I know that Tom Holland didn't mind so much when he got paid. I know Chris Sarandon didn't mind so much because they paid him to be in it. And you know, it to me, anybody that was a part of that original film that says they have a problem, either it's a little sour grapes because they weren't asked to be in it, or enough time has passed that if the film had actually been good, they would have said so. They would have said they enjoyed it. To come back now, like William Ragsdale, who basically, no pun intended, ragged on the movie. There was no room for him, I think. And again, I think he suffered from the same thing that Adam West did about being in Tim Burton's Batman. There are different ways to take that. And again, as long as the creator of said property is down with it, I'm cool with it. That's the way I roll with that. It's
well,
not
it's like
always
when they start talking about doing John Carpenter remakes. Carpenter doesn't care as long as he gets a paycheck.
That's right. I mean, he's cool with it. He's cool with it.
By the way, we have two people in the chat that I need to do videos for. First one goes to.
Hey, fuck you, Carl.
There you go. And
by what name are you known?
There are some who call me Tim.
But go ahead and cue up the video, man. Jace, we'll hit you and then move the other way as far as when you saw this movie the first time.
When I saw this movie for the first time, well, first time was back in 2011 or 12. I first saw the remake. So I never knew there was another movie before some years ago, and then I watched it, and I watched original, and I absolutely loved it. And one of my favorite parts with the original one is the practical effects, because I'm a practical effects guy, and I loved it, and so much better than the remake. I don't mind the remake, but the original is the OG. It is the best one, and so yeah, I think it was maybe last year or something the first time I saw the original one.
About a year since you saw it.
Yeah.
That's really cool, though. And this is the reason why I say sometimes remakes are good for one thing and one thing only. Getting somebody to watch the original and getting exposed to it. But the way I look at the remake is completely unnecessary. It did nothing. It added nothing. So,
No.
Just there's no point to it.
No.
Okay, John, when did you see it?
This would have came out in video 86, so then. So it would have been, I would have rented it from the video store.
In 86. All right.
Yeah.
What did you think of it? Did you enjoy it?
Oh, yeah. It was, I think it was one of the ones that I read more than once. It was one of those that whenever we were doing horror movie shows, it was horror movies for like Halloween and stuff. It was one that was always on the list.
Yeah, it's always on my Halloween list for movies to watch.
Yeah, same here.
Martin, what about you, man?
Oh, I saw it on, I don't know what year, man. I was in high school. I saw it on TV in Venezuela, but I don't remember if I saw it on Open Signal National TV or if I would watch it on HBO.
Did they do a good job of the dubbing for Ragsdale and for Brewster and for Chris Sarandon's vampire Jerry Dandridge?
Yeah, I remember seeing. I have memories of seeing it on Spanish, but I don't remember if it was the first time. And I first watched it in Spanish, and months later on English. I remember it because the name of Evil Ed was different. His voice was a little different, but in general was a good dubbing.
So, what was his name?
Oh man, don't let me go. I can't go that far in my memory.
I'm surprised enough by the fact that my team does have memories. Don't push it.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, it's from.
By the way,
it's from all that LDS he dropped back in the '60s.
come on, man! I told you that in secret.
That's a Star Trek joke.
Okay,
For
we
those
have
of you
a
who
super
didn't get
sticker.
that. That's an actual Star Trek joke.
Actually, we have two. Because
Yeah.
Six is throwing poop at Gerry and a rose at me.
Of course.
Thank you, Six.
So
There sure is a lot of assumptions on your part there, Anima.
Oh, no, I don't know. Everybody knows that.
So Christian Delorme is here too, our good friend.
Bonsoir, monsieur.
Parrot Head is here. Zach's, of course, in house. I played that video for him, and FKH is here, also known as Tim. Let's see who else. Anybody else popping in? Oh, yeah, I saw one here. E. Clay Thomason is here. So hope everybody's having a wonderful Saturday. Hello, Six. Hope you're having a good Saturday. And we're about to start the video. So
no, not yet.
No.
He's got to redo it. Remember?
Oh, I thought he was going to play at least some of it that he had.
No, he's redoing it now. So
okay.
So we'll have to talk some.
All right.
If anybody please can,
that's a cat.
Can anybody take a hold of the chat for a moment, please?
What is on this new sticker? I don't see it.
A cat. It's a cat.
It's a cat. That's for your cats.
Oh. Thank you. I hope they're behaving. I fed them before the show, so hopefully they're in a food coma.
Yeah, they almost eat you.
There's even more stickers here. What is this one? What is that sticker?
That's the cat.
That's the cat.
What
the
was
rose.
The previous one.
Rose.
We have poop, the rose, and the cat.
Yeah.
There's 4 stickers, isn't there?
No, there's 3.
Oh, I thought there were 4. Okay.
Gerry can't count until 4. That's embarrassing, you know.
There are 4 lights.
And like that, we broke up.
Oh.
Wow.
Wow, man.
And he pretends to want to be on the Saturday shows. How dare you? Who the fuck dare you?
How dare you?
How dare you?
Our own little Greta.
Yeah, she's our little Greta.
And what?
Little Miss Thunberg.
Oh.
How dare you?
So, but okay. So, any more behind the scenes stuff we might want to talk about beforehand, Tom?
Well, the budget was. Okay.
Go ahead, Keith.
I was just going to say the budget was about 7 million, 7 to 9, between 7 and 9.25.
Yeah, it was the slated last film of the year that they were going to shoot, so they got like nothing from the studio.
And they were able to get it done in a timely fashion because it premiered August 2nd of '85. So,
and I thought one of the biggest and best parts was that they got Brad Fidel, the guy who had scored the Terminator, to score the music for it. And I mean, what a great soundtrack!
Well, the studio was pushing Perfect and The Slugger's Wife rather than this movie, so they expected those to be hits.
Showing again just how stupid studios are.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Columbia Pictures, which is now known as Sony.
I don't even remember.
As Tom pointed out, this is back when Coca-Cola owned them.
Yes.
Which led to the funny stories of the behind the scenes of making of Ghostbusters.
Now, that wasn't the only connection to Terminator. You remember Amy is supposed to be 16 years old in this movie, and she drives she rides a Honda Elite, which is the exact same bike that Sarah Connors rides when she is also 16.
Oh,
it's the same bike, even the same color.
No.
Wow. I never noticed that.
I noticed this yesterday. I saw the bike. I have seen that bike.
Wow.
What other tie-ins do we have with other films with this flick? Clearly Psycho.
Exorcist?
It's kind of Peter and the Wolf. Or not Peter, the Boy Who Cried Wolf. Because Charlie keeps going to the cops and his parents or his mom and everything, saying, "Hey, that there's something going on."
Well,
here.
that's the Rear Window bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not crying wolf though. He is really concerned.
There's a little bit of the Hammer horror in there, because like clearly
with
with
the cut scenes from the movies.
Well, not just that. Yeah, Peter Vincent's character is not only clearly a homage to Vincent Price, but what's his face? Peter Cushing. I was just going to say Peter Cushing and Vincent Price basically is a amalgam of the two, and him being a huge part of the Hammer horror films.
Yep. Well, the two of them, really. Yeah. So.
Yep.
Yep. Exactly. So like this is paying homage to that as well. The Hitchcock and Hammer horror films. Yeah.
Especially the titillation vampire films that they started making in the late 60s, early 70s, where you see the females being excessively feminine for the ratings.
Well, it's kind of what Hammer did to it, right? Is they kind of sexified it up a little bit more than it was originally. Yeah.
Originally, yeah. But they always got X-rated.
Bosoms everywhere.
The Hammer films were always X-rated. A lot of people don't know that. Not here in the U.S., but over in the UK, they always got an X rating.
Yeah, well, they were definitely a hard R over here.
Read by Nature says, I saw the sequel before I saw this one. It was a fun movie. Haven't seen it since I was a kid. I don't know. Is anybody in charge of chat? There we go. There it is.
It's interesting.
Same thing as Jace.
Yeah, the sequel. When I saw
what's
the
that,
sequel,
Tom?
that was interesting.
The sequel.
Yeah, the sequel is interesting.
Well, it falls in that category.
I haven't seen the sequel.
The sequel led to people being introduced to the original. Yes.
Yeah.
Look at that.
This is actually a bootleg because it's finally going to be available for the first time in a while. I don't know if you guys know the reason why it's kind of a taboo film, and that's because the Menendez brothers' father is one of the producers on it. So there's some convolution there between them and the estate and where the money goes and all this business. So I guess that was something needed to be tied up.
Hold on. I never heard this. Wait, what?
Yeah, I guess the Menendez, the father, in the whole Menendez thing, I guess he used to produce movies once in a while, and this Fright Night 2 was one of them.
Oh, Fright Night 2, not Fright Night.
Yeah, not one, but Fright Night 2, yeah.
Yeah, Fright Night 2 is such a huge letdown to a lot of us fans because we're expecting the follow-up to the way the movie ended. We'd see more.
Well, it's also
see Evil Ed.
Yeah,
but it's also a bit of a disappointment to Tom Holland because he's talking about doing a direct sequel now. Okay, he's readying a direct sequel to the first movie and skipping over the sequel.
And are they going to recast? I assume.
He's wanting the original cast to make cameos because he's wanting it to be all these years later.
So it's going to be years later. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
I can roll with that.
Is he going to disregard the sequel? I thought he liked the sequel because I thought he was one of the producers on it.
I know, but now he's saying it's no.
Because he's the one who broadcasted that it's finally coming out on disc.
He makes money on it. I guarantee he makes money on it.
Yeah, he changed his mind. Is basically what it came down to.
Yeah, if they
well,
were
he just wrote a prequel.
Oh,
say what?
You wrote a prequel?
Tom?
Hello.
Tom, did you say something about a prequel?
Oh, I think he's busy.
Oh.
Well, I was just going to make a joke that if he was going to do a direct sequel immediately after, he could get recast Charlie as Tom Holland, so Tom Holland can direct Tom Holland.
Oh,
he actually did write a prequel book.
No, I don't want Morty in any more movies, please.
Yeah, he just put out a prequel.
Prequel book.
Yeah, Fright Night Origins.
So
with
one of the
Jack
things I want
Early.
to point out is Chris Sarandon originally didn't want to do it. And he was not interested in doing horror. But somebody told him, read the script. And he read the script. And like so often happens, they're won over. by the characters in the script. And a lot of people don't understand how much of that script ended up in the movie.
And his three biggest films are all horror films, technically.
Yeah. Child's Play,
Fright Night, and Nightmare Before Christmas.
Nightmare Before Christmas. And by the way, he didn't do any of the singing in that. That was actually what's his name?
Danny Elfman doing the singing.
Danny Elfman did the singing.
Yeah,
but Sarandon plays Jack Skellington.
I remember it wasn't Elfman in Oingo Boingo.
Oh. Yeah, I said Oingo Boingo.
Oh,
I said the lead singer from Oingo Boingo.
Oh,
no more multiverses.
Holland wants to direct, or at least the last time he talked about it, he was wanting to direct a movie called Fright Night, Resurrection.
Yeah.
Because he wanted to resurrect Billy.
Erection.
Oh,
wow!
Wow! That's all it sounded like you said.
Why did he sequel? Because I liked how the sequel was about the sister.
No,
I also liked how it set it in the city.
I just wish that they had kept, and all of us original fans that saw it in the theater wanted Evil Ed back, because we were kind of promised that. It was talked about in Starlog, Fangoria at the time, that, you know, Evil Ed was a very popular character. And when fans would start talking about, heard there's going to be a sequel, we were just biting at the bit, going, "It's Evil Ed's going to be back," and it's in the comic book. If you ever read the Fright Night comic books.
Well, this is what Holland himself said. He says, "I'm bringing back everybody I can. I'm calling it Resurrection because we've got to resurrect Billy Cole and Jerry Dandridge." He went on to say, "Part of the issue with the attempts at sequels and remakes is that the movie itself was kind of a singular idea, and a follow-up needed to be more than just set in the same world. It needed to draw from the same set of inspirations and follow a similar thematic thread." That's what he had to say about it.
All right. But you were going to say something else, Tom?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay, I'm good. So do we have the film strip yet, man? We're half hour in.
It's 50% rendered.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, because I was using the other one. It really was. It's just, you know, my joke this morning for the show is he had one job to do, and he put the wrong copyright information over the video.
Imagine that. I prepared the slideshow for like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it was all wrong.
That can happen, dude. That can happen.
But I did start before the show. Anima and I started watching the documentary "You're So Cool, Brewster," the making of Fright Night.
Oh, okay.
But it also goes into, it's a 3.5 hour documentary, and it goes into both films. And I think they even talk about the comic book, don't they? It's been a while since I watched it, and we didn't get to finish it today.
I don't know if it gets to the comics. I stopped at 2 hours 47, so I'm still like an hour short.
Well, the thing I liked about the second film is they got more into vampire lore, with the whole roses thing. And you got, I forget his name, that played Laszlo in Val Kilmer's Real Genius, plays a werewolf in it. And I thought, this is really weird, but I love him as an actor. And it's the second movie where he played a werewolf, because he was also a werewolf in Monster Squad. He played the werewolf in that film. Same actor.
Oh. He was a hunter in Supernatural too.
I know who you're talking about. I got his autograph, and I can't think of his name now all of a sudden.
Yeah, I'm going to find it here in a second, because I know how to use the internet. Laszlo Holyfield was played by John Grease. John Grease, that's the actor. Yep. Great actor, man. Always loved him. So he's played a werewolf in 2 films, and he was a
I'm
hunter.
thinking of somebody else now too.
And then he played a vampire hunter, you said? Or what was he?
A hunter on Supernatural. So
that's interesting.
Oh yeah, that's.
I'll have to find out which episode so I can go actually watch it, because I like him as an actor. He also played Napoleon Dynamite's uncle. selling the Tupperware. But just a
We're
really
almost
good,
there.
solid actor.
We're almost there. We're 85%.
Yay! So
I was thinking of Brian Thompson because he's also in Fright Night too.
Yeah, and this guy, the one we were talking before, in at one point in the documentary, he said that when he looked at Brian, he wasn't too convinced, and then Brian got into character, and he was, oh my god, this guy can act.
Didn't he
he
play
knows
in
how to
more
play
American
a
Graffiti
sympathetic
also?
character because he's got that affable face. That's why he was so good as Laszlo in Real Genius. He's just sympathetic looking. Not pathetic, sympathetic.
Yes, Keith?
I was just going to ask, from this is a fun movie. What other film from this time period would you put in the same class as this film for being a fun type of double feature? You have
well, we
Fright
said
Night.
before you got here, Lost Boys would be a great one for it.
Yeah. That would be another one that they've attempted to do more with, and in certain respects haven't really been successful.
Yeah.
I mean, both of these properties are fairly easy in how you want to consider them. It's only when people try to put more in there than what it is, or try to go a different direction than what the original creator had in mind, that you run into problems, especially with Lost Boys, because that remake they were talking about just sounded like complete and utter horse stuff. I mean, there is nothing in any of that sounded good.
And like
at
two
all.
sequels, right? If I don't remember wrong, with the Lost Boys.
Yeah, there were
or-
two sequels that a lot of people never really watched.
I
mean,
didn't.
compared to the
They're
original.
straight to video, yeah.
Yeah, straight
Yeah,
to
no,
video,
I
and
have
I did
seen
not
them.
enjoy them. I was very disappointed with both. Continue. I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt.
And no, I was just going to say that, this is the problem, not only then, I mean, currently with the entertainment industry. These are fun films, and the people that created them have a certain background and a history with what they were doing that completely goes out the window whenever a lot of stuff is considered for making spin-offs or sequels or whatever. So it's difficult, it seemingly is, to make sequels because the people doing it now are almost completely cut off from the history of the person that created it. So they don't understand where to go with it.
Yeah.
It makes it impossible to come in and be able to do the same, or at least keep it within the same spirit. I think it's
Yeah.
almost antithetical to how they do things now. I'm done.
Oh,
I'm done.
I'm done.
I'm off my soapbox. So,
I have spoken.
Anybody got a letter?
And here
That's a
it
good
is.
question. I am curious, from the chat, like how many of you guys saw the movies in the 80s or later on VHS?
You know what? I'm embarrassed to say that there's quite a few films I actually saw in the theater. I know a lot of people in the 80s watched a bunch of stuff on VHS, but I mean, even Highlander I went to the theater and saw, so.
Yep.
Thank you, your Muslim uncle, or our Muslim uncle.
yeah. $1.99 super chat.
What's AVGN? What is that?
I don't know.
Angry video game nerd.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, that guy.
thank you, Tom.
You guys are a bunch of rookies.
Tom is so nice, and then when he shits on you, he really shits on you.
He's just stating facts.
Yeah, I used to watch him a lot back in the day.
Well,
this is some great hammy overacting that was typical in the really bad Hammer films, which were still good.
They're still good. Hammer movies are fun.
Well, that's the way Roddy seems to be made up for this scene. And Amy, later on in the third act of the film, that dress she's wearing is a very Hammer-inspired dress for her to wear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Yep. One thing I do want to point out, though, is that like Roddy McDowall, he had worked with I'm not sure if it was the casting director or Tom Holland on it was the class of '84. Roddy McDowall worked.
That's one of
Was
my
that
favorite
Holland?
movies.
Was that Holland that he worked on that film? I can't remember. But either way it goes, he'd worked previously with him. So when that was thrown up to him as an idea, he was all for it and went and talked to him, got him to play the part.
I know.
During the making of the film, Roddy kind of pointed out that this character is me. He really is me, a washed up actor. Because he just watched all of the people that he worked with make great careers, while his just seemed to languish. And
Roddy got himself blacklisted too. I don't know if you know.
That's the thing. Yeah, I know about that.
And it's really stupid, sadly. Go ahead, Keith.
What was it?
Oh, what I heard is that there was a whole thing about trading films that back when there weren't VHS, or this is even before.
Well, he was actually one of the early adopters of video. This is where he got himself in trouble. But yeah.
And so there were people like Rock Hudson and others who had gotten a hold of copies of a lot of these films, and they had some of them have built secret places within their homes to invite people to come over and watch these films. And Roddy had gotten in trouble and got caught and supposedly ratted out everybody that was in the network of people that were trading films.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah, it was kind of a little bootlegging operation, although they didn't really realize what they were doing at the time. They thought they were just, like a film club, like sharing movies, and because video was in its infancy, and they had 16 millimeter and all that kind of shit that they would make copies of for their friends, and then they realized they were breaking the law. Yeah.
Well,
also really rare movies.
To get him blacklisted.
Because
he ratted everybody out. That's why.
Yeah.
Oh,
that makes sense.
Yes.
Oh, I thought you said they ratted him. Oh,
no, he got busted, and the FBI pressured him, so he ratted everybody else out. Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, it was a Colby situation, and basically put pressure on him, and he gave up names. And again, a lot of the films, I think even to this day, there were certain films that were traded back then that are still not offered on VHS or anything. There are quite a few classic Hollywood films, as you'll note it. As you get into the digital age, as you go from video to everything else, there's a lot of films that drop off. There are fewer and fewer films that make the transfer every time there's new technology. And there's a lot of films that never made it onto video. And so, those became treasured films that certain fans would really, hey, I got a nice grouping of friends over. We're going to go over here and here. Don't tell anybody. But look what I have.
Yeah, it was really just like a film appreciation kind of club.
Yeah.
Like video had just kind of come into style. And of course, the only people who could afford video players were,
actors and other
people, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it took a long time for our school to get one of those things. Because it was so expensive.
Well,
but I mean, they were into
one of the main reasons we got a lot of video now, because he pushed for it so he could do his shows. But anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say the other reason why there's also an additional reason why Roddy was targeted is because they found out that this was also a habit for those in the gay community to do this. So they were also looking
film fans. Exactly. Yeah,
that's right.
Well, that's brought up in the documentary, is that he was known for throwing 2 parties a week. First week for his friends, and the second party of the week was for his
Friends.
Friends.
Yeah,
Lover.
friends.
Yeah. His special friends.
His boyfriends.
And that's fine. But like I said,
I don't think there's
when
anything
I'd almost
wrong
be
with that.
disappointed if I didn't find out if Roddy McDowell was gay. Right? Like,
Wait, Roddy McDowell was gay?
What? No.
It's sort
he
of like
wasn't
when I was a
gay.
kid and my dad told me about Liberace, and I'm like, what? No, what?
That's what I mean. That'd be like somebody trying to tell you Liberace wasn't really gay. You're like, you're shitting me.
I really, no, I'm serious.
That kind
I
of
really
ruins it if
reacted
he's
that way.
not.
Because, like, when my dad told me that, I'm like, get out of here. He's not Batman.
Kind of like with me and Vincent Price. For years, I've always kind of questioned whether or not he was straight or not. And I've never gotten a straight answer on that, pun intended.
Flamboyance, man. Very flamboyant people.
I mean,
it's
that's the thing is everybody's like, oh, they were married. It's like, well, so was Anthony Perkins with kids. But we all know.
Yep.
They don't call them beards for a reason, you know.
Good one, Keith. Good one.
I just, again, I think for what I've learned, I was just interested in a lot of
Me
the stuff
too,
that
Sean.
never made
I'm
it
not
over.
convinced he's not. He wasn't. I mean, sorry, because he's no longer with us. But yeah,
I just think that it would be interesting to find out what happened to a lot of those really film canisters that never made the transfer over. Because some of these films weren't some of these films were like a lot of the musicals and various other things. A lot of the big films would eventually make it, but that's what's really
storage is
sad
a big
about.
thing. Actually, Keith is
That's right.
Where they stored the negatives or anything like that. Because even a lot of the films from the 30s and 40s that they're transferring to 4K now, they're finding
depending on the
themselves
content of nitrate in the film, too.
exactly. They're a lot of times more dependent on like fine grain negative strikes instead of actually having the actual negative. For instance, Citizen Kane doesn't have one stitch of the negative in it on the new version.
Wow.
That's interesting. By the way, I just want to throw this up there because I paused it so everybody could see it. This is the first shot of the film that they did. Is her putting?
You're so cool, Brewster.
Wow. Wow.
There it is. The great line.
To end all of what I was saying from before, this is the only thing I have against David Zaslav personally, was when they did that whole thing where they were cleaning out all of the Warner Brothers storage and they threw a lot of stuff away. It would have made more money if he had actually put that up for auction or allowed film fans to come in and give money for some of that stuff, because I know I don't make that much money, but I would have driven out to at least pick up some of that stuff. And it's hard enough to find a lot of films, as I said before, that never made the jump over to VHS and then never went from VHS to DVD and on and on and on. And as time goes on, it's going to get rarer and harder to find a lot more of these things. And it's just sad. So
there will be ghosts. There will be ghouls. Maybe some homosexuals.
By the way, speaking of those parties, another comedic actor known for those parties was Paul Lynde.
Oh, you're kidding. He was gay.
I love his laugh.
What about Dick York? Dick Sargent. Dick York. Dick Sargent.
Roger
What about the
on American Dad is based on Paul Lynde.
So yeah, totally. I think to a point, Mr. Garrison is too. If you can't figure that, yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, clearly. My favorite Paul Lynde story is like he was always constantly driving drunk and getting in trouble for it, which is not a good thing, mind you. But he ended up crashing into
I hope that doesn't get us in trouble.
Yeah, he ended up crashing into this. I can't remember, was it like a mini mall thing or something like that? And the cop comes up to him and knocks on the window, and he rolls it down. He goes, "Hello, I'd like an order of." I like an order of fries and a cheeseburger place to go.
Oh man.
Constantly the comedian.
Yep.
So do you think this movie was an inspiration on Scream?
Not so much. Scream, you can draw a clear through line of Psycho to Halloween to Scream.
It was Wes Craven's, which is why I made fun of Scary Movie, because Scream is a parody. in itself, it is a parody. So you're making a
Yeah.
parody of a parody when you made Scary Movie.
More of a satire or a
satire.
but yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah. My problem with Scream was it screwed up all horror movies for like the next 20 years, and they didn't learn anything from Scream. See, when you make a movie like Scream, that's when you go, okay, the audience has figured out the rules. Now, how do we turn it on the rules on their head? Instead, they just kept mimicking Scream after that, like Urban Legend and
the
I Know What You
non-creative
Did Last
do that.
Summer and all that kind of stuff. Exactly.
You can see when there's a serious drop in creativity when they start doing that shit. By the way, I want to throw this in there. This was actually Chris Sarandon's idea because he believes somewhere in vampire DNA are fruit bats as well. So
I like that bit that he had here. Yeah.
He went to Tom Holland and said, I think that there should be this craving for fruit.
Constantly eating fruit. Yep.
And Tom Holland, do it, threw it in the movie. And it ends up being one of the best scenes right here.
And there's kind of like a symbolism there too, right?
The apple. Eden.
The whole thing, like you can really break it down. And I love how Chris thought of that as like, because that's something vampires have never had before, but it kind of makes sense in a weird way. You would think that, sure, they go for the blood a lot, but there's also, wouldn't they need some sugars? But like you said, the apple, the Adam and Eve story, that all kind of plays into that factor. Plus, the fruit, the woman, the virginity, the whole thing kind of wraps around. Because for those this is the funny thing about the 20th century and how we've glamorized vampires, because people seem to forget that the whole idea of vampires originates as a cautionary tale against sexually transmitted diseases. People forget
and immigrants.
Well, yeah, and because of that whole thing is this idea that you can get, these diseases if you, lay down with this strange man, and so that kind of translated into the kind of like the sexy vampire. See, because initially vampires were always portrayed as diseased, and even if you read Dracula, Coppola, he really took some liberties with how Dracula looks when he gets to the mainland England, because in the book, he's still not pretty or anything like that. He's still an ugly beast. He just is more, got more juice in him now. That's all.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. They've turned vampires into this sexy kind of. It's the bad boy thing. I get it.
Anne Rice. Anne Rice is the one
that is one who definitely helped start it. Well, Bela Lugosi, actually, you can draw back to him initially because he was the first one to really make Dracula seductive.
And do you remember how they promoted the film?
As
it was advertised as the strangest love story, and it was released on Valentine's Day.
A thrilling romance, because the word horror didn't necessarily. A horror film hadn't necessarily
how horror would go.
Yeah.
The tagline for the Dracula was "Love Never Dies," if I remember right.
The Coppola one, yes.
And then we got, after the sexy vampires, we got Sparkly. So
that was a obvious transition in the world.
Can we please not mention those? Embarrassment to the whole vampire thing. These movies need to not exist. I'm sorry.
If you are not aware of history, you're condemned to repeat it, Anima.
I can't wait till Frankenstein comes back into vogue again because of the whole body mutilation that people are going through right now. But we're not going to get into that. So
yeah.
Back to Fright Night.
And I want to point out that when you see the end of the street, this was actually shot on the old Disney backlot. And it's so funny because they've been searching all over the country for this house. And then they ended up finding it right there in Hollywood on the backlot of the old Disney.
Well, we didn't even talk about like the Renfield character here. I forget his name.
Billy.
Jeff.
Yeah,
Billy.
Yeah. And I love how it kind of insinuates, and this is the beauty of the time where it came out. It almost insinuates that they are homosexuals, basically living together. And that's kind of the other thing that kind of adds to his whole problem, that he has with Gerry, they don't really touch on it too much, but it's clearly kind of sprinkled in there. Subtly in there. Yeah. Yes. Especially with the guy, the way he acts like he's kind of like a jealous boyfriend of sorts in a weird way.
Well, if you really want to get down to
point out, there was something I was going for. With the backlot scene, you can see that one shot where you see the town in the background and hills in the background. That's actually a painting by Michael Juricic, who was the matte artist for Blade Runner. And it was
Of course you would know that. Of course. What were you going to say, Keith, about the pole smoking?
Well, I was actually going to say, the whole dependent relationship within the vampire books, as adapted by Hollywood from Bram Stoker's novels. It's really a whole cuckolding of a lot of the males, and when you see how women who have been with Dracula, who have been influenced by Dracula, become a more like him, more sexual, more, what they were, but that the men who have had contact are more malleable mentally and are not as there's definitely a hierarchy, and they're definitely not on the same level as them anymore. No matter how male they were starting out, they lose a lot of their maleness because of contact with Dracula and or the vampire. And that was part of a whole college course that I took. Trust me, a lot of this stuff has come up before, and at the rate Hollywood goes, it'll probably come up again. It's just well, I mean,
by the way, Shinatsky has joined us. If you guys didn't notice,
Shinatsky, but also with the whole inviting a vampire in there again, that also speaks to the whole foreigner aspect. The fact that he can turn into all of these disgusting things: bats, rats, wolves mainly, and communicate with them.
Those are not
and of course, say what?
Those creatures are not disgusting.
Well, if you think about the time period when the book was written, if you think about the time period it was written in, rats were mainly things seen in garbage in bigger cities,
as disease
especially
carriers.
London.
The plague.
Yeah,
you guys
disease
gotta remember
carrier.
also the plague is in that era.
Oh,
That's
we
right.
didn't know it back then, though, that it was rats.
By the time I think Dracula was written, though, I think they might have.
Yeah,
I think is what he's getting at.
And also the fact that it was all symbolism of coming from the lower classes. Again, the Dracula, when you read the book, it's about someone from the lower classes, someone that is a plague, someone that is a foreigner, reaching up into the upper echelons of social, the higher classes, and influencing them. That's also the other thing about that story. So,
I was just say, technically, it was the fleas on the rats that spread the plague.
Yes,
it wasn't the actual rats.
Yeah, and that's if you get into the actual history of the pathology of the plague, it brings up fleas were the carriers.
I'm sure if that had been known, they would have written that in there too.
Yeah, but the fleas only went for rats, not for humans. And humans actually got rid of cats, which screwed them up even more because the cats would have taken care of the rats, but they didn't know back then.
Oh, Destiny Captain has to leave, it looks like.
No, he just arrived.
Oh, just arrived, dropping out of FTL. Oh, faster than light. Gotcha. Throwing a little science at us on a Saturday. But by the way, there is a show. There is something interesting about Ragsdale is that his career really never took off other than twice. This movie, its sequel, and Herman's Head.
Yeah.
Which was a hit show on Fox, but it didn't last. Does anybody even remember that show, Herman's Head?
I remember the name. I don't remember ever watching the show, but
I did.
It was Inside Out before Inside Out.
Yes. You had a series of character actors, comedic actors, playing different aspects of his mind. That when things would happen in his real life, you would cut to them and saying stuff and doing stuff. It was funny.
Yep. Yeah. It was a television show prior to something like Dream On. You know, another examination of the inside of someone's head. You know,
which that was more like you and me, because you and I in particular we think in movie lines.
It was one of the earlier Fox hits they had. I mean, I guess the word hit is stretching it, but I mean, for them, it was a hit, I guess.
It was the first hit they had after Married with Children.
Pretty much like that and The Simpsons. And yeah, it was just before like A Living Color, I think, and same time frame as The Simpsons. In fact, I think it was on either just before or after The Simpsons, and that's what helped it, because it was on Sunday nights originally. I remember that.
Yeah, and I think the main problem is they wrote themselves into a corner with the show, and they couldn't figure out how to move forward with the show. And it also, because there were so many actors involved with it, it became not cost effective doing the show.
Well, I remember Whoops.
Because Yardley Smith, I think that's her name, the girl that plays Bart Simpson.
Yeah.
That's her name?
Yeah.
Yardley Smith.
Yeah, that's Lisa. Nancy Cartwright does Bart.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Lisa, the one that did Lisa. I'm sorry. She was in there. She was one of the voices in his head.
Yep.
Actually, I think she played like a secretary or something like that. But yeah, I think you're.
Was that?
Yeah,
it?
she was a secretary. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just remember her.
But I think Nancy also did play a part on that show too. Another person in the office or something like that.
I wouldn't be surprised.
And Hank Azaria, I was going to say it had kind of like a lot of crossover, because I was going to say I think it was on just before or just after The Simpsons, because that was even before they had any other animated shows to go with The Simpsons.
Yeah, that animation domination thing.
There is another notable credit for Chris Sarandon. You don't know, he's Jack Skellington.
We brought that up earlier.
Yeah. What we did skip was the Princess Bride.
Don't forget the Princess Bride. I was just going to say. I thought that's what he was going to bring up. Yeah,
as Humperdinck, wasn't that his name?
Prince Humperdinck.
Yep. And one I like him in is Dan O'Bannon's The Resurrected, which is Charles Dexter Ward adapted.
I'm trying to remember which one that was.
Wow.
I can't think.
Because I know Ron Shusett, who was Dan O'Bannon's writing partner on Alien and Total Recall, he did one that was not Dead Alive, it was Dead Something, and where people were being resurrected.
Dead and Buried, I think, was the name of it.
Was that it? Dead and Buried. And then what was O'Bannon's called?
The Resurrected. It's also, I think, got a couple different titles. So it's.
I'll look it up, see if I can find it. Yep, there's Chris Sarandon, found it. I don't think I've ever seen this movie.
Dan O'Bannon.
It doesn't ring a bell with me.
My favorite story, because I used to know Ron Shusett back in the 80s. I met him through the guy I lived with, Ron Miller, the artist. And Ron worked with him. And so I got an introduction. He would tell me these little stories. My favorite story was about O'Bannon. He says when his marriage broke up, he ended up moving into their basement. Oh. And his wife would get up and there'd be fresh, new, dirty dishes in the sink, and it freaked her out. Like, what is going on? And like most creative types, he works at night. And that was funny. She thought they had I'm going to use the word because I get called a troll. Basement troll.
I just remembered Bordeaux of Blood. He was the religious guy who was the televangelist.
Oh, the evangelist. Yes. Yeah. Bordello of Blood with Dennis Miller. Great movie. I think that's the only movie with Dennis Miller as a major character. I mean, Joe Dirt doesn't count. Joe Dirte. Sorry. I like this scene. Well, of course I do, my boy. You believe in vampires?
Yeah.
Of course I do, my boy.
It is so good.
I thought one of the weird parts for me in this movie at the end is that he gets his job back somehow miraculously at the TV station. And I'm like, I wanted to know how that happened.
That's the 80s aspect of the movie, or they left something out because, it's just one of those, we got to have him have a happy ending too, you know. Yeah. It just makes no sense. It's like, what did that have to do with the other thing, unless the story actually got out that the vampires were real, which I don't know how that would work out. But like, the ending is kind of muddled in that respect. But that's really one of the only things that at that point you're just kind of like, whatever, you know, because the movie is so good. And it leaves you in such a
Yeah.
high note that you're just like, okay, fine, whatever. You accept it.
You
just
can
because
accept it, like, yeah.
Yeah. Just kind of figure whatever, like whoever they brought in there to replace him just didn't work out.
Yep.
Still better than the start of Fright Night 2, which is that, oh, don't worry, Charlie, it was all a psychological breakdown.
Well, I mean, that's kind of how they explained everything with Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz. That's the darker aspect of that.
Which I got to tell you, has got me interested in this new Wizard of Oz horror film. I'm interested in that because there is a horror aspect to the Wizard of Oz.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Well, I think Cecil put it best. The Wizard of Oz is about two bitches fighting over shoes.
No, man, the Cowardly Lion, if you ever read the book, the Cowardly Lion is complete badass. The Tin Man has one of the darkest origins possible.
Mm-hmm. He's a warrior is what he is.
Yeah, and got chopped to shit, like literally chopped into pieces and then reassembled.
Yep.
That's not the version I heard. The version I heard is that he got rid of body parts in exchange. You know, he was
dark.
He was trading off body parts in order to achieve his mission to be better. You know, and unfortunately, he gave away too much, and by the time he figured it out, it was too late.
Oh,
and by the way, you bring up Wizard of Oz, and I wanted to point out that the character of Peter Vincent is very much intentionally done to be the Cowardly Lion. It was, it was intentionally done. He is the Cowardly Lion.
Yep.
Stick him up. Put him up. Oh my God.
Again, it would be interesting to see someone try to tackle the actual literary version of the Wizard of Oz, to try to actually make that and to weave together the history, you know, to weave together all of the books. That has been tried before and mixed in with other things. But the world of Oz in and of itself is fascinating. You know, you just got to
Agreed. I paused it here for a reason. That is the classic Don Post collectible showcase, Nosferatu, with Klaus Kinski, with molded from Klaus Kinski's face and his hands. And I wanted that so badly.
That is how
nice
vampires
are
seen. I mean, that's really before the whole sexualization of vampires. That's really how they quote unquote are supposed to be.
Well, they're fiends. They're monsters.
Yeah.
They really are.
Yes.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, going back to Oz, what I said was I think the books are in public domain now. I think pretty much all of them are.
All of the books by Frank Baum are public domain now.
Yeah, but not all of them were written by him. That's one of the interesting things. He only wrote so many of the books. The rest of the books were written by other people. So the actual number of Oz books written by L. Frank Baum aren't as many had thought, you know. And you can tell. But it still would be interesting if somebody were to get it into their head to try to do this and to think of it as part of a wider, bigger world in presenting, because everybody has already done remakes of the first book. It would be interesting to try to do it with that in mind of a wider world, because there are characters that you can have cameo or put in there that are all a part of that. And again, if you're going to do it, do the whole thing. If you want to be different, come from that angle.
Well, one of the tragedies that did happen with Oz is there were actually plans for an Oz theme park that it never materialized. I don't entirely know why.
Well, probably because not as many people have read the books as one would think. They've been more influenced by the third movie ever made than by the books, and that's a sign of the times. You know, I wish there were more of a move to get people to read the books the same way kids read all the Harry Potter books. That's one of the things that they completely missed
Well,
out in having an entire generation
like
read
Dr.
books.
Sin.
I forgot what store. It might have been Walmart, but I think it was Kmart. They had the classics that were like 2 for $1.
Mm-hmm.
And I bought all the Wizard of Oz books because they had all the ones by Elfright Baum.
Elfright Baum. Yeah.
They had them as part of the collection.
That's what makes you so cool.
No.
Yeah, this is again a good movie. I like the tone of a lot of it, although again, for me, even when I saw it in the theater, I could tell that there was something a little different about Amanda Bersey as far as the way she seemed to try to carry herself as a teenage girl. And there are times when when she just slips a little bit. You could just tell she's a little older.
I don't know. She does a pretty convincing show.
She tries. But I really do miss Roddy McDowall. He's one of those actors that he just made, in my opinion, he made a lot of stuff better with him being in it.
Yeah, we lost him in the 90s to cancer. And I was so glad he got to finish the intros and outros for the Planet of the Apes special edition release.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think they showed that on not TMC, it was AMC.
AMC,
I think showed those. Yep. And I was just so glad we got that from him before he died.
Yeah.
I wish he would have lived long enough to be a voice in the remakes, Rise.
For the Planet of the Apes films. Yeah, that'd have been something else, dude.
I never would have put him in with that. I mean,
I would have, just as a nod.
Well, how old would he be if he was still alive?
Oh, he'd have been in his 90s.
As I say, he probably would have been gone by now, but no, it would have been cool, at least in the Tim Burton movie, to have him done something, but even though
I love that they had Heston in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that he was
That's what I mean.
He was an ape. That's right. Yeah, the only thing I didn't like was the ending on that. I just didn't like it.
Yeah, it has other issues too, but yeah, it's one of those things.
I just think if you're not
thing in there was the general played by Michael Clark Duncan and Tim Roth.
Yes, yeah, those guys were great, and the makeup was amazing. Rick Baker did a fantastic job on the makeups.
His ape makeup has always been great.
Well, it was just first of all, I mean, he's been doing apes for years, but I mean,
his first job was doing an ape.
King Kong, yeah.
No, before King
Schlock,
Kong.
was it, or what
Schlock.
did he do? Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah.
That was his first real gig.
But for those who don't know, he actually played King Kong most of the time in the
Well, he couldn't get
De Laurentiis version as well. Yeah. Plus, he had the brown eyes. They said that was the thing that stuck out most, was he had those piercing brown eyes, and it was tough to find that color brown eye that worked perfectly with
the most ridiculous part is we were sold a bag of goods on that film.
That sounded so bad.
Yeah, it was just, they said Carlos from Baldi had made the full-size Kong and
didn't work. Didn't fucking work.
It was
worked less than the Shark and Jaws.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's like
there's one shot they got in the whole movie that they stretched it out for like 30 seconds, I think, in the whole movie, that the damn thing. And that's just the scene where he busts out of the cage and he's literally going like this.
Yeah,
he drops the cage, and that's it. That's all they could get the damn thing to do. And it looks horrible.
It's so bad. And I remember after we were done seeing the movie the first time, my buddies and I would see it at matinee, and we're like, my God, can you believe that was full scale? Then later we read, what? That's Rick Baker? What?
99% of the movie is a guy in an ape suit.
Yep.
For all the Rick Baker fans, I can't justify spending this much, but if you go ahead and get Rick Baker Metamorphosis, the books, that is definitely worth your time. And these are books that are worth having in your collection if you are a Rick Baker fan.
Also, if you're a Rick Baker fan, go check out Joe Rogan's interview with him.
Yes.
Just recently, and it's really good. He gets into the minutia of things that were great, things that went wrong. He talks a lot about American Werewolf in London.
Oh. Well, go ahead.
You mute yourself, Gary.
You muted
American
yourself.
Werewolf in London is just like one of my favorite werewolf films ever made.
That transformation is just.
Well, that's the thing they were fighting about. You know, him and the director was, is this going to be a two-legged bipedal werewolf or a four-legged one? And finally, I don't remember which one wanted which. One of them won out and became the four-legged werewolf. And
I think it had to do with because they were competing with the other one too. And
'Cause
that's the thing
he
is
was the
half the
original
guys ended up
artist.
working between the two of them. Like that was a thing. So they already knew what the other was doing, and so they knew what they had to do to compete.
Yeah,
with
because
the
they
other
used
one.
a lot of the same techniques, the snout stretch, the bladders, but also because Rob Bottin was a student of Rick Baker.
Yeah,
His
so they knew
protege.
the one was going to be whatever, like really tall. So like, okay, so let's make I think it went to whatever
and went
way.
the other direction.
Yeah, they're like, let's go the other direction with it. Yeah.
And it works, man. I got to tell you that as much as I love The Howling, the werewolf in American Werewolf in London is the better.
They're both amazing. Yeah. That's the thing. But the
one
werewolf
didn't
in
scare
London,
me too much.
Yeah, the werewolf in London one though just has that extra edge to it that looks more realistic.
And it just looks menacing. The only scene in The Howling that scared me was the scene where she gets the girl, the other reporter, gets trapped in the office by him, and that scared the shit out of me. Watching, I was 16, man, and I was, oh my God, she's pinned, she's cornered, and that whole feeling cornered thing really got to me watching that scene. The rest of it, I just loved watching it. The rest of it wasn't scary. That scene freaked me out. But American Werewolf in London, there was something dark and sinister about that werewolf. And it leads to that great moment at the end where you finally see it get a peaceful look on its face. And she's like, David, I love you. And, goes, and then goes,
it's the red eyes. It's the red eyes that get me.
And they're round. Yeah.
Yeah.
Creepy looking.
Oh, geez.
They almost look like they're glowing.
Nothing is scary.
Right? And the scene where he's in London and everybody's running by. How do you get close to that thing? I mean, it's chomping at people. It's not really biting people yet, but I mean, what even makes you want to get? Oh, I gotta run across the street right past it. It's like, no, you keep your distance.
Now, I do want to bring us back to this because this is a really great scene in the film when Evil Ed separates from Amy and Brewster, Charlie, and is being stalked by Jerry Dandridge. And this could have been so scary, but instead, Jerry Dandridge talks nice to him.
Yeah.
He's very empathetic towards him. And I think it leads to a scene that has more meaning to it rather than just the transition. He's like, you're tired of being made fun of. Come with me and no one will ever make fun of you again.
Yep.
Or no one will ever hurt you again. That was it.
Yeah.
Which is not true.
Yeah.
Because he gets hurt twice. He gets crucifixed to the head, which is a great effect.
Yep. I agree with
and
that.
then he gets the table leg to the chest.
Yep.
Falling off the upstairs.
And yet
Has to feel
somehow
good.
he survives.
Yeah, I think that what they need to do is that classic thing, like they did with Lestat, that Lestat didn't really completely die, but it took him decades to recover and heal.
Yeah.
If they do a sequel. So
Well,
he's been
they should just
hiding
go,
in that house.
They should just go ahead and make the vampire Lestat. You need someone with vision and with the drive to go ahead and actually make that. And it's the
They'll never
Lord of
do
the
it.
Rings
Not
of
the
vampire
current
movies.
filmmaking, not the current generation. They can never make it right.
Yeah, they'd never do
that.
that.
Latest show is just an abomination.
I refuse to watch it.
For anyone listening to us, if you've never read The Vampire Lestat, go ahead and do that. Trust me, if you're a fan of the Lord of the Rings, go ahead and do that.
Yeah,
Because
Interview is
that's
great,
exactly
but the Vampire Lestat is the better of the two.
better. Way better.
He wakes up and he joins a rock band.
Well, that's the third book. That's the next book after.
Oh, that was
the Vampire.
No, that was Vampire Lestat.
No. The Vampire Lestat is really the book that shows you who Lestat actually was, and that shows that what's his name lied. That Interview with the Vampire is not real.
Keith,
well, from his
it's what
perspective,
he does at the very end. So it's the end of the book and the beginning of Queen of the Damned is him joining the rock.
Yes.
Yeah, he basically says that Louis lied.
Yeah, Louis lied to gain sympathy and other reasons. So,
Oh, War Monkey is here. Read by Nature. Oh, and Jamie G is here. What's up, man? Hope everybody's having a good weekend. AF Watcher is here too. A lot of people have slipped in.
Yeah, I wish they would make Ramses the Dam. That was my favorite of the Anne Rice books.
It was the last good one. I didn't like what followed. Because I freely admit it. I was an Anne Rice fan. I love reading her books.
Oh, I read most of them. Quality really dropped off there after a while.
Vampires should not be involved with Atlantis or aliens.
And worst critic of the day is Zach's.
Wow.
Exactly, Reed. I always said that both narrators are bad narrators. That you can't trust Lestat and you can't, as characters, you can't trust either character. No. Each one's going to tell from their perspective. So, the unreliable narrator. But Queen of the Damned was really good. I wish the movie had been better. It was so bad. There was so much more in that book. It should have been done in 2 parts.
Yes. Again, this is what Netflix is good at. You go ahead and just do a series of movies. If it wasn't for the fact that Amazon was so far gone, I'd say Amazon should do it. Because this is the kind of thing that people would really get into, and Amazon be able to sell a lot more books and merchandise related to all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But, what do I know?
Yeah, what do you know? Jamie G, I agree with you, unless they're sci-fi alien vampires, like in Life Force, which he brought up. A classic film that you and I bring up all the time, Keith.
Yeah.
You and I have talked about that on the show so many times because as not great as it is, it's great. And the only thing that weirds me out to this day is seeing Charles Manson trying to kiss Captain Picard. That's just weird.
If I remember correctly, though, Life Force was also a film from, what's the name of that British film company that did it? It wasn't Hammer. It was the other one. And it was a co-production, but I can't remember.
Canon Films.
So, Canon, yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Which would later become Canon Globus, wasn't that it?
Yep.
No. Yeah.
The Go-Go Boy.
No, wait. No. I'm sorry. No. Yeah, Golden Globus. No. I mean, when you look at the credits, there's an actual British company that actually did this in association with Canon Globus. And I can't remember the name of the film production.
Well, TriStar is the only thing listed. It's Canon Group and TriStar Pictures is the only thing listed.
Because all of the actors that they used had worked for this company. A lot of the British actors, not the Americans.
Like Frank Finley. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, everybody had been associated with this production company. And that's one of the things that I remembered from that. People are still amazed the fact that Hammer Films is still around. It's not a former film production company; it's still around.
Yeah,
they're just not doing everything like they used to. I mean, they could if they wanted to, but
Now this is somebody just brought it up in the chat that this is their favorite scene, and this scene is really good. The soundtrack is great, but this is one of the most interesting transitional scenes because he is embedding himself into her mind and taking her completely over, and
which is what he did to someone.
Changes her physically in the scene. So she no longer looks like a young girl. Now she becomes a young woman,
Even her hair.
In fact, it becomes a completely different woman.
Yeah. It's hard to believe that she would be Marcy Darcy on.
No, it's a different actress after that point. I don't know if you realize that.
No, that's still her.
No, it's a different actress. They have a stand-in for the tit scene.
Oh, no, I thought that was a prosthetic.
Yeah, it's a prosthetic.
I just thought it was her with a prosthetic.
Yeah, it was her with a prosthetic, and she kept it for like 25 years.
Oh, okay. I thought they had a stand-in. I can't remember, but all right. Because it doesn't even look like her after a bit. It just looks like they have makeup on to look like her.
Yeah, but from what I remember reading about it, and I think it's in the documentary, it's her all the way through. But they give her a prosthesis to make her more buxom, because as you transition into a vampire, you become the more voluptuous, more appealing version of yourself.
Yeah,
for the women,
her hair grows.
For men too. It's what I've always read, that they become more alluring. What's that?
Doesn't go for the world of Anne Rice, because she has that little girl in Interview with a Vampire, and she hates being stuck as a little girl. She's cutting off her hair and it just grows back. She's trapped.
But she's still alluring to people with the need to protect children and love children. And that's how she draws out her victims.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it was one of the greatest sins that was committed by Louis.
Yeah. Yep. And that's again another sign there that Louis not the victim that he pretends to be, or forged himself to be in that story.
A graver sin was what they did to her in the TV series, where they just aged her up.
Did not watch it. Refused to watch it.
Yeah. They changed everything. They changed the era it's taking place in. Like the entire story back.
It's almost like they're just not even bothering to tell the story.
Yeah.
That's what I got. They changed the fact that Louis was because in the book he was a slave owner.
Yep.
And he wasn't in the show.
Well, they think that they can't do that if he's black.
We're black slave owners.
Yeah.
But I mean, they felt that they can't do that. But it's like, okay, guys, look.
Which is why
got no real interest.
Anne Rice's stuff should not be adapted by anybody right now in Hollywood. They just are going to ruin it. Ruin it, Brian. Ruin.
Well, Anne Rice did her homework. I
love the scene where he's cackling at him as he's driving away.
Nice.
Evil.
Well, I mean,
best.
Basically, what he did was he took his friends from him. And he didn't have to work that hard to do it. That's the other thing about it. The power of Gerry is the fact that he did not have to work that hard to take his friends from him.
Yep. Although let's face it, apparently Chris Sarandon is was an attractive fellow to the ladies.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah, well, it helps a vampire to do that. To be attractive to the ladies.
And and just to bring up the second film, his sister again, Jerry Dandridge's sister, is played by I think she's a Venezuelan actress.
Yeah.
No.
What was she? Argentinian?
No, she was American. But she had a very mixed ascendancy. Her grandpa was Cuban, but I can't remember how else. But as you say, let me watch in the internet of
it's
things.
Julie Carmen.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
She was the one in
Regine.
In the Mouth of Madness too.
Yes.
Oh.
What?
Man.
Wow. Yeah, she was a favorite of John Cassavetes. She was used in Gloria with Gina Rowlands. Wow.
Oh, I remember that movie. God, that's a good film.
Really good film.
Actually, FKHC inadvertently brought up a good point. Man, Ryan McDowell could have made a great Doctor Who.
Oh, heck yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, he would have been a
Without a doubt.
perfect Doctor Who.
Without a doubt.
I concur with that statement.
Here we go. Julie Carmen, Spanish, Cuban.
Now, this is
Cuban,
the crazy
and
part.
German.
Here's the crazy part where he bites her. There are no major blood vessels at all.
Yeah.
But they needed it because it was the only way to get the effect to work, the blood dripping down.
Mm-hmm.
He bites her right in the upper trap. That's just a muscle.
Yeah.
Like I said, that
always-
dress. Oh, go ahead.
No, I always found curious that they chose to make the bite in that part.
Yeah, it
Instead
was
of the
really weird.
neck.
But the reason why is it had to do with the fact that to get the effect to work visually, he needed to bite there, not on the neck, because she needs to be upright for it to work. So, but here we go. By the way, I want to pause this for a second. I want to give the video. I've been sitting here making this. Took me a little bit. This is for 6. 6, I hope you're still out there. This video is for you. And thank you.
Charlie? Oh, you're so cool, Brewster.
Oh, it's a good scene.
I love that scene. And again, that was the first scene they shot with the cast. But
And the humor was so
now,
perfect.
Chris Sarandon, those are not fake ears. He actually has bat-like ears. They're really weird looking. That's why he always wears hair over his ears, because he's got really tall, pointy ears.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's bizarre.
I never thought about that.
Yeah, I wonder if I can find a picture of him, Chris Sarandon.
Chris actually has ears.
His ears are tall, like bat. Because when I first saw the movie, I thought he was wearing prosthetic ears because I could see it through his hair that he had tall ears.
Good one, 6.
What did she say?
Oh, here it is. Looking for yourself.
It's a perfect time. It's a perfect cure for that time of the month.
It's like the joke I used to make about my ex-wife. I said she's built backwards. She's friendly 3 days of the month and bitch the rest.
Forget that chocolate. Become a vampire.
Here we go. This is Chris Sarandon's ears. Here we go.
Oh.
Really tall ears.
Yeah. They are. I understand now. Why he tries to hide them.
Well, you know, the things you got to do.
Now, I've got to tell you, a really good show that I just finished watching, and I'm going to introduce Anima to it, is The Continental. Because I wanted to see if it was worth her time.
I was shocked it was only 3 episodes.
It's 3 long episodes.
Well,
and
yeah.
it's really good. Again, I'm going to point out, man, it doesn't have any understanding of physics when a woman fights a man. It's.
No, you said so. I'm excited to actually watch to see how it is.
But I really still like the film, and the 2 main female bad guy, the bad guy and the good guy, fight at the end on the rooftop. The same scene where John gets shot off the roof. John Wick.
Yeah.
They have their fight up there, and that's a really good fight.
Oh, I'm excited. I'm excited to see.
Because both are real life
to it.
martial artists. Both of them studied martial arts as well as dance, and so their choreography on that scene was a lot of fun.
Mel Gibson was the reason I'm.
There you can see his ears. There you can see his ears.
Oh.
In that previous shot, you can really see how pointed they are.
Yeah.
This is the scene that really, because the eye acting that Roddy McDowall does in this movie is amazing. He saves several scenes, like the scene on the stairs when he comes back to put the cross into Chris Sarandon's face, you know, and he says, you got to have faith. And then you see him show with his eyes, I have faith. I don't know if any other actor could have pulled that off. And the scene with Evil Ed that's coming up here, which is one of my favorite moments in the film, when he goes to Charlie Brewster's house to get Mrs. Brewster to wake her up, get help, and finds Evil Ed in the bed. Seems she's working late, but she left dinner in the oven. There he is in the bed pretending to be her.
With the worst
the eye acting
ever.
Watch the eye acting by Roddy McDowall in this scene is so good.
Dude.
And they're both hams, okay, in this scene. Evil Ed is so hamming it up here, but he makes the movie because he does that. And because of being touched on the forehead with the crucifix, he's now ugly and gross instead of being a pretty vampire.
I think this is what what's his name was going for in the Buffy movie, and it didn't quite translate as well. I mean, if you're gonna do that, do it. If you're gonna ham it up, ham it up.
I thought they hammed it up just fine in the Buffy movie, but
I did too. I love that movie. I like
the movie. I couldn't get into the show. See, and that's the thing I noticed is like people who love the movie don't really care for the show. People who like the show don't really care for the movie. Yeah.
I hated the show. Love the movie.
The only thing I liked from the Whedonverse was Angel. I didn't like Buffy.
Ditto. I like the Angel series.
Although I do like Willow, but that's for a different reason.
But I absolutely loved Rutger Hauer and the cast, Donald Sutherland, all of them, and Paul Rubens. Oh my god!
Yeah.
And that outtake at the end of his death scene is so funny.
I guess I'll be the odd man out here because I like both the movie and the series.
That's a rarity.
I like
but
Alicia Dushku as Faith.
It's usually one of the
Usually you prefer one or the other. Yeah.
I like Buffy, but Angel is by far the better show.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. Well, that's because it's meant for an older. The thing about Buffy is it is about teenagers and teenage girls specifically, whereas Angel is about you in your 20s. And what life after high school is. And it's to me, it is the superior show because they did more in fewer seasons than Buffy was able to accomplish.
I also think Buffy should just end it with season 3. Like once they're done with high school, that's it, because that's what the whole thing was about. College didn't really work for Buffy, in my opinion.
But college made Willow go evil, and that was such a great turn.
I'll have to take your word for it because I'll never watch it. Now I'm going to point out here again, it is the acting by Roddy McDowall that sells this scene because this scene would not have worked because the effects is not the best. The prosthetic effects, practical effects, just not the best. But oh my God, his eye acting in this is just so intense. His sympathy. He wants to reach out to this monster that's dying, and it's like, and you're yelling at him, don't. What are you doing? But it really is one of my favorite Roddy McDowall roles. And I'm a big fan of his. I've been watching him since I was a kid. That was one effect I didn't like right there. I didn't think that was very good. It just didn't make sense as an effect. Oh, he's repelled. He's repulsed. But then, oh, he's suffering. And I thought this was a good effect. The upper body, the upper torso creature. And this is also another foreshadowing moment in the film, because you get a lot of foreshadowing in this film, is him trying to unimpale himself. He doesn't have the strength. But later we see Jerry Dandridge does. But somehow he must have unimpaled himself because, of course, he makes an appearance at the end of the film.
Well, like I said, they missed the heart. It's actually above the heart.
Yep, it's up here. Went between the ribs. Probably hit more of the lung. But look at him, he was crying. What a great scene. He sold that scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as much as everybody are stars in this movie, the real star of this film, for me and in my opinion, is Roddy McDowall. This was a great vehicle for him.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Chris Sarandon's fucking smarmy, snarky vampire is great.
Well,
He sells
you
that
know,
a lot.
Peter Vincent has the most dynamic art. He goes from I'm a charlatan to a hero.
Well, this right here, watching that kid die, is what makes him finally believe. He gains his faith and his composure and returns to the fight.
Yeah.
Oh, now I remember. He removed the stake. That's what it was. Because from all the Hammer films, you never do that.
Yep.
He walks out and the house looks like that.
Kids, this is why you decapitate the vampire after you stake them.
Cut the heart out.
That's right.
Cut the heart out and decapitate the vampire.
And you
And
burn the heart.
His mouth with garlic.
With garlic, that's right. And burn the
Set it
body.
on fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Burn the body, consecrate and holy
Oh,
ground.
thank God you weren't going to say necrophilia because I was going to freak out.
I mean, in this particular situation, the brother would have already left. He would have moved someplace different.
That's one thing I really liked about the Buffy vampires, that they took care of their bodies. They just turned to ashes. That was neat.
Well, I told you about my old black roommate. Man, I lived in a haunted house when we were friends, like before we moved in together. He would not come near the house. He would pull up into the circle halfway and honk. And I'd have to hear him from the back of the building to come. He said, I ain't going in there. No fucking way. Fuck that shit.
Yep.
Want nothing to do with your house. And I'm like, okay.
It's like the Adam Meffrey joke, about the haunted house.
Oh, honey, this is such a wonderful house. Get out. Sorry, gotta go.
Exactly.
Sorry, we can't stay, man.
Yeah, that may work
Sean's
equally.
here. Sean's here. Sean Crummell.
Yeah.
But this really does. I really do love the.
No, we
finale.
didn't mention House 2.
So there he is, and we're finally, because he's what some people call a familiar, which is he's not human. He's a daywalker that has been created or altered by the vampire because he's supposed to be 800 years old, according to the backstory. That he and Gerry have been together for 800 years. And yes, it's insinuated that they might have a relationship. But they wanted to be ambiguous. They wanted to be ambiguous with it. But that is there. It was intentional.
Oh, yeah, you could tell.
And then you see, I love this. He's walking up the stairs behind him. And this is one of the few times they mix effects. You get both prosthetic effects mixed with green screen, or back then they used blue screen, which is where he lifts his hand is blue screened in.
Just the whole sound of the creaking stairs.
Again, the eye acting by Roddy McDowall. But yeah, when he lifts his hand up and you see the hand melting, oh man, that was a great mix. And then of course the bat flying through the house coming up is another one.
The bat looks amazing.
It does. It's actually there. It is. Those are green screened in or blue screened in the hands, and he's green screened in there too. He's actually not in the shot with them. The composites that were done in this film are very smart, like the mirror scene. When Gerry Dandridge shows up in the mother's bedroom and walks through, closes the door and pulls it shut, there's a shot of him walking, but you don't see him in the mirror. That's because the mirror was a composite from a previous shot where he's not in it. And they did the same move, the sweep. And it's beautiful. It's just unbelievable, the quality of filmmaking is. Oh, this is my favorite jump scare. He looks out the window and Gerry Dandridge almost goes on top of him. It's great. There's the Scooby-Doo moment where the monster reaches for you. And
our Muslim uncle has to go. So
bye. Oh,
good luck.
Enjoy, man. Have fun.
Yeah.
Thanks for swinging by, man. Deeply appreciate it. And thanks for all your support. And there you see his ears too. That's not a prosthetic ear.
Yeah.
That
'cause-
is Chris
that is
Sarandon's
his hero.
hero.
And say Creature. He's going to go see Creature from Black Lagoon, who's probably the most underrated of the Universal monsters.
The black creature from the White Lagoon. Is that what you said?
The what?
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
What?
Hold up.
Hold up. Wait a
That
minute.
joke was begging to be made.
First of all, she liked what he was doing.
Yeah, I love the romantic pictures between him and her, the creature and her. They're cute because she was hamming around with him.
Mm-hmm. She liked
Terry, what's her name? Terry. I forget her last name. Beautiful actress. Howard Hughes was after her.
very beautiful.
Howard Hughes absolutely was chasing after her like crazy. I remember reading about that.
1954.
Here's another composite shot. It's really well done for the 80s.
Julie Adams.
Julie Adams, that's it.
Oh, beautiful woman. That bathing suit. Mm.
Remember, you have to have faith. And then he does it with more gusto with the cross.
See,
Nobody,
This-
I don't think anybody could have, I don't think even Vincent Price could have done what Roddy did with this role.
No.
this and Ghostbusters do what you're supposed to do with comedy and horror. The horror elements stay horrifying. The comedy stays
That's right.
comedy.
Now, I do like the flipping on its heel here, what we traditionally see the opposite of, that everybody seems to show up just in time for the sun to go down when they go to face a vampire.
Yeah.
We only have minutes before the sun sets, you know. This time
That's what
it's
I
the
like
opposite.
about. Well, yeah, I was gonna say that's what I also like about Lost Boys is they go during the day, like when they're smart. You know?
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, that's because they got the Frog Brothers.
Yeah.
They know what's going on.
Well, the nerds know.
Yeah.
And John Carpenter's vampires. Hey, pull them out into the sun, let it finish them for you.
Yeah, not
mean-
a fan. Not a fan.
Yeah.
Outside of going online, if you lived at a time before online, if you really wanted to know what was what, the nerd knows.
Yeah.
In a lot of these movies, the nerds know. So
Oh, I can name several blaxploitation films, but oh my god, I mean Blackula. Come on.
Oh yeah.
Scream, Blackula, scream.
Actually, it's kind of a nod to blaxploitation. Is Eddie Murphy's Vampire in Brooklyn?
Vampire in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I like that film. I don't care what people say. I like that movie. But I like a lot of the blaxploitation movies and
I do too.
blaxploitation horror. What was it? Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde.
To me, the modern one that really knocks it out of the park is Day Shift from Netflix. Just
Hell
everybody involved in it.
The whole
It's
gum
just-
gag payoff.
Yeah.
at the end.
Oh, geez.
I'm a big fan of Black Dynamite.
Oh, it's a
No,
good film.
yeah.
I was just talking to Anima about that movie.
A lot of people are big fans of
But yeah, here she is. Now she's a voluptuous hammer vampire.
Yep. This is a total hammer vampire.
And it's obviously prosthetics because there's no movement with them. It's like solid.
I'll still look. Yes, I'll take that. Yeah.
They did use though the model Heidi or whatever her name is, the model that gets killed at the beginning when she shows up,
Yeah.
and Charlie looks up and sees her, and you can actually see that it's chilly out. The director was embarrassed to ask, so the wardrobe girl asked her to ice her nipples for that scene. True story. Because the director was embarrassed and couldn't do it.
Pretty sure I would not.
I could have
fly
done
these
that.
days.
I could have asked. It's like, hey, man.
I don't
Because
think that's something
he
you can
wanted
ask today.
the director wanted something that would grab Charlie's attention.
Oh, okay.
Literally.
He
That's just what a
said that in
different
an
joke is.
interview. In an
Oh,
interview,
this
he
is
said
great.
he wanted that because it would have grabbed my attention. And I was like,
His
"Ah."
rising up out of that casket, by the way. Oh my God. The only other time where I thought they did a fantastic job like that was in the TV miniseries movie, Salem's Lot.
Yep.
When that vampire rises, I was like, holy shit. I love that when they just come up all at once. Because apparently vampires have the force.
Well,
I love this moment when he breaks the glass and then realizes, oh shit, I just broke that glass and I'm cornered with you. He gets all excited and then he turns and the vampire looks at him and he just laughs. He goes, yes, but you're in the dark with me. The makeup in this is really astounding.
Yep.
Well, this is pretty much this is pretty much Rick Baker at the height of his powers, so to speak.
No, this is Rick Baker.
Huh?
This is the same company that did Ghostbusters, that did the practical effects.
I thought this was Rick Baker. No,
Yeah, it was Rick Baker. It was him.
I always love this one.
Wait a minute, Rick Baker was involved with this? Because I don't remember his name ever being thrown around.
Yep, he was involved. In fact, he
Boss Films was, I don't know about who else, but yeah.
He even is in the documentary. They have a ton of people with big names in the.
No, he's not listed. He's not listed in.
No,
the
he is
special
not.
effects.
He was probably just commenting on it. That's all.
Yeah, because he is not
Maybe
involved with this.
Maybe that's where I got confused from the documentary.
Yeah, the
Nice
minute
try, Charlie.
somebody tells me something like that, it's like, no, but I'm going to go look that up because that doesn't sound right to me. But I love this movie so much. Now we're finally here at the end. They've defeated the vampire. And now Charlie and Amy are up in the room making out again.
Yeah.
And somehow miraculously, Peter Vincent got his job back at the TV station.
Yep.
That never gets explained. It's like, wait, what? He was fired very unceremoniously.
Yep.
They should have
just
shown him
wanna
with the
say-
other channel. That's what they should have shown.
I'd like to say on behalf of a lot of teenage guys, it's not that simple for a guy to just jump back into a relationship with a girl that had, transformed like that. Not saying he wouldn't.
Yeah.
I'm just I just said it'd be a little.
Your standards
Hey,
are
man.
much higher than mine on a cold night.
Now, I'm going to tell you something. Rick Baker is in this movie. Right here. That's Octoman.
That might be
Which,
one of the
by the
reasons
way,
why.
our guest just for Halloween is Dick Dysel, the great horror movie host. He's in this movie. He was one of the actors in this film.
Oh.
And Octoman, Rick Baker built the suit. That was his first paying movie gig.
Ooh, nice.
So Rick Baker technically was involved with this film.
Okay.
So you're not wrong.
I'm
You're
technically right.
Yep,
Yeah.
you're technically right.
And that's the best kind of right.
Oh, this is such a great scene because he thought he saw something. He goes, it was nothing. It was just the wind, as white people say. Hey, do you hear that demonic voice? Oh, no, it's just the wind.
Egg, why didn't you get ate by that vampire in that movie?
Hey, Marcy. Marcy.
And there it is. And you hear the classic line, you're so cool, Brewster. And that's how the movie ends, right there.
Yep.
Over.
Well, and that's the thing about the ending is I'm trying to remember in the sequel, is Peter Vincent still part of the show or is he not part of the show anymore? Yeah, okay. Because other than that, like everything else at the end of this movie, you could almost chalk up to like maybe it's just a weird dream that Charlie's having or something like that. But yeah.
In the sequel, Peter Vincent's spending his time trying to convince people vampires are real.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm going to go with that one. That looks better. So that's a great film.
Yeah, it's a fun movie. If you haven't seen it, why are you watching this instead of watching it? I do not know, but
Highly recommend it.
You've
it is
probably already
in
seen it,
my
so you don't
top
know anything we
recommendation.
haven't told you as far as how good it is. But yeah,
It is always in my, because like I did my top 5 list. We're going to be doing ours too, Tom, if you want to join us. Because I really liked what you guys did the other night with that. when you
Totally
unveiled
stealing your idea.
when you unveiled your idea. Are you fucking kidding? This entire show is stolen from Midnight's Edge.
I'm used to it.
Yeah.
It's not just there's a lot of other folks who ape our stuff all the time.
In fact,
but you know what they say is when somebody
it's
copies you,
the most sincerest form
of flattery. But yeah,
the joke is that Andre said. I loved it. I said, we're the illegitimate child of Midnight's Edge, and Andre says, I should learn to wear a rubber.
So true.
Well, Andre is like me Norwegians, we forget that all the time.
I don't know about residuals. You can't get residuals for ideas, Sean, but you know what I wish I had done is copyrighted the term streaming wars, because we done coined that years ago.
Absolutely, yeah. And by the way, this is my nod to both Andre and Jace, because I haven't played this in a long time.
Hey, Sweden!
Not Swedish, Mac, the Norwegian.
Oh, you motherfucker. That's a long time since I've seen that one.
Jace right now.
You gotta be fucking kidding.
Exactly.
You're
exactly.
pulling out all the classics.
Call me Snake.
Yeah, call me Snake. Call
It's
me
Bliskin to you.
Yep. And by the way, talking about that, it got brought up the other day, and I said, I fucking hate Escape from LA. And
well, it's not the same kind of movie.
I said, it's nothing more than a straight across the board remake. All the beats are exactly the same, including him pulling out a chair and sitting on it and waiting for something to happen. It's like, oh my God, instead of the fight, it's a basketball thing. I was like, oh, I got so annoyed.
Which movie?
Escape from LA.
Escape from LA.
It's a straight remake.
Oh yeah, it is, and I think Carpenter's even acknowledged that.
It's not even a good remake.
Yes and no. I get what you're saying. Like at the time it came out, you got to remember though. Like I see what he was trying to do. He's kind of trying to reinvigorate it. At that point, it was kind of a remake because not a lot of people didn't come around to Escape from New York until after that movie came out.
Yeah, it became
people forget about that. Like it was one of John Carpenter's lost films for the longest time. So I remember it was even a harder one to find on video. Like I'd try and tell people about it, and they're like, "What movie is that?"
And it's my number 3 favorite film of all time.
They're like, "Are you sure you don't mean Big Trouble in Little China?" I'm like, "No, Escape from New York."
I think what he was trying to do was to repeat what they had done with Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2.
That's what I mean. Yes, I think he was trying to reintroduce the idea through, even though it's a sequel / remake at the same time.
Recall, it's called
a retelling kind of thing.
Yeah,
but it just didn't work out right.
Yeah, and one of the things that bothered me, and I'm a big Stacy Keach fan. I hated him in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
He just wasn't right. No.
Oh, and what's his face as the surfer dude was out of place.
Peter Fonda.
Peter Fonda. That whole thing
was horrible in it. Yes.
Steve
Steve Buscemi was probably the best part, as far as and Pam Grier was great in it too.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it was a way of commenting on Hollywood and the entertainment industry.
Yes. Well, yeah.
Bruce Campbell's
excellent scene. Yeah, like this is one of the
best scene as the Surgeon General of Beverly Hills.
Yep.
Yeah, but that's the reason why I think the Evil Dead thing, it was solidified by having Bruce Campbell in the film.
That's still one of my favorite lines, though. Sorry about that, Keith, but like, my God, they're real.
The other line that I love is
Keith, you were going to say something. I interrupted.
No, that's all right.
He compliments Kurt Russell's one eye.
Well, at least you got one good eye.
The problem with that movie is it's trying to be a parody of the original movie too.
The basketball and the surfing scene are probably the two worst scenes in the whole movie, though.
So hokey, and he really made that shot. But the surfing scene was so hokey; it just was bad, just bad. I hated the whole underwater scene with the Universal ride. It's just like, give me a break.
Yeah, the CG wasn't quite there yet. That was another thing too, and that's what I mean. Is you could tell Carpenter was getting ambitious with the idea that somebody was going to give him money. It is. It's really, I feel like very much an Evil Dead versus Evil Dead 2 thing, because at that time, like I said, I don't even think it had been re-released on video up until Escape from LA had come out, because that's when I finally got it on video for the first time.
There's another reason for it, a very simple one. So Carpenter and Kurt Russell could both get fat checks.
Yep.
Kurt Russell's paid $10 million of what, like $32 million budget to come back.
And people forget that Escape from New York was also wrapped up in that whole lawsuit with Erwin Blondes or whatever his name was.
Oh yeah. Oh man, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, because for those who don't know, the quick fucking version of it is they're like, yeah, we'll make The Fog and Escape from New York, but we want you to make Halloween 2 first. And he was like, okay, fine. He told them that. But then he went behind their back and went to Embassy Pictures and made a deal separately for The Fog and for Escape from New York, so he didn't have to make Halloween 2. And they took his ass to court. And the ruling was that he had to write Halloween 2. So so for anybody who ever gives him shit for Halloween 2, just remember this. He was court ordered to write that movie.
Mm-hmm. I actually like Halloween 2.
I don't hate it, but that's my point, is like anybody, whenever they give him shit, it's like, look, just remember this. He had gone through shit. He did not want to make that movie. And when they did, his plan was to do the whole anthology thing. And they're like, nope, we want Michael Myers. Because Universal's like, we just spent a bunch of money for the rights. We want Michael Myers in this movie. In fact, we want it to be a direct sequel to the first movie. And if it's not, we're not going to be happy. So all those things he had to make everybody happy, but eventually got to make.
Well, that's why he became so miserable about
Escape from New York on his own. But like, yeah, those two movies kind of got lost to the side for years. If you kind of notice, like in the pantheon of his, becoming, The Thing and all that kind of stuff as it was becoming more famous. It took a while for Escape from New York to kind of catch on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it was the hatred for Escape from LA that also helped it elevate it.
But yeah, I will tell you this.
It reminds me a lot of The Warriors, where people forgot about it. And then they reminded, like, oh, yeah, that was a good little movie.
The music and
the theme in Escape from LA was better.
It's probably one of his best, if not his best, even better than Halloween, right? I mean, I would argue that just because Halloween is such pure Carpenter, with him doing absolutely everything with nothing, that even though that's probably one of his best scores, maybe Escape from New York kicks its ass. It might just kick its ass because it is.
And especially when you go up and you hear the rock version that they did for LA.
Yes, that's one thing I do enjoy for LA is the soundtrack. Oh God, it's great.
It's so rock, and I love that theme.
And the ending for Escape from LA, which was so well done, Ryan Johnson decided to rip it off.
It was set up for, that was what I was getting across with like the whole Evil Dead 2 thing. Like he was already in his head, he already had his Army of Darkness, and that was Escape from Earth, right? So for years they've been talking about that movie. It just never got made because Escape from LA tanked at the box office. But that's where I think he felt like he had to reintroduce that idea so that he could tell the more fantasy oriented version of it, when it's about them getting off of the planet into space and stuff. Yeah.
He brought up the anthology thing. That's why 3 is my favorite Halloween movie.
Yeah, I mean, and I actually got to talk to Tommy Lee Wallace about that, and that's where I got a lot of this info from. And he was telling me, like, yeah, that initially that's what they wanted to do, but the studio said no. But he's like, if they would have said that, because he got offered Halloween 2, and Tommy Lee turned it down because he's like, I'm not following that up. Fuck that. Yeah. If he's like, if they would have offered me something like Halloween 3 to begin with, then I would have said yes, like I did to Halloween 3. I said yes, because it was something completely different. It wasn't Michael Myers. It wasn't, the night continued. And then I asked him, I'm like, what would you have done had you got to do a Halloween 2 in your own image, though? And it wasn't, what John was kind of forced and thrusted into. He goes, I rather would have done something more like H2O, he said. And you could see this in our interview we got posted on Midnight's Edge. So, I mean, I'm just paraphrasing here, but he's like, yeah, he would have done, Laurie a couple of years, though, later in college. He would have jumped it ahead a few years, probably another 5 years, he said.
That's interesting. Yeah. My letdown, by the way, because for me, John Carpenter's directing career ended in 1995, and that was was it In the Mouth of Madness? I think was the last thing he filmed.
I thought Village of the Damned. Didn't we have?
Village of the Damned. That was it, 95. I really liked his remake. I liked it. I did not like Ghost of Mars. I couldn't stand that movie, and I couldn't stand vampires, even though I liked parts of it. I just didn't like the film. I just couldn't get into it.
You don't love the cinematic masterpiece that is Body Bags?
It's made for TV. I don't include that one. I do like Body Bags, but it was made for Showtime.
Suicide.
What's that?
Mark Hamill commits suicide in it.
Yep. The Thing prequel director recently apologized for the movie. It's not his fault. It's the production company forced the CG on us, and it ruined it. Ruined it, Brian. Because I think the film would have worked, but they made some mistakes in it because it's the isolation that.
Do you need me to say it, Gerry?
What?
Ruined it.
Ruined, yes,
Ruined.
But absolutely.
I sound like him.
In The Mouth of Madness is absolutely going to be one of our films we'll be covering. We covered it previously, but we're going to do it again because this one's just for Halloween. Because I love that movie. It is absolutely a film I love always having at my fingertips, so I can just watch it whenever.
One of the better Lovecraft movies.
What happened to our screen? Something jumped there.
Did we lose someone?
No, yes, Keith had to go.
Oh, Keith had to go.
Well, he should. Oh man, I hate it when that happens. He does that quiet and just leaves because people want to hear him say bye.
Because he's a big mysterious man.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry guys, he had to leave. So anyway, we're at the end of the show. We went over 5 minutes, so it's okay. We had a lot to talk about, but let me go back. I want to go here because I don't get a chance to play this video very often. So this is how we end the show before the credits now.
That's all, folks.
Tom, you want to add anything?
No, Sadie's got to go out, so I'm sure we'll be dropping a video here soon that I was editing all day. So that keep an eye out for that. Other than that,
all right, cool beans. Well, I think everybody
tonight, I'll probably be on Flashcast tomorrow. We got the rest of our Halloween list. As you can hear, Sadie's like, it's time to go out.
Yeah.
Growling.
She's like, I've waited 5 minutes. Get it over with, dude. This is urgent.
Stop talking to the little square thing. All right, guys, we're going to get out of here. Everybody have a great weekend, and we'll see you. I'll see you Monday. All right. Thanks again, Tom.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.